Hello, my name is Odonga Otto. I'm a political philosopher, and today I want to ask, into how many small countries should the world be divided for the world to be at peace with itself? You need to read the works of one author called Quincy Wright. Into how many countries should the world be divided for the world to be at peace itself? Today, as a political philosopher, I want to state with authority that those who are harboring secessionist movement, those who are harboring separatist movements, and those who are harboring autonomous movements, I think from a political science perspective, in the year 2023 is stupid, for lack of a better word. There have been over 40 secessionist movements in Africa. And out of the 40, only 2 have succeeded. Which 2? Eritrea successfully separated from Ethiopia in 1993. And South Sudan separated from Sudan after a bloody war that claims millions of lives. So today's discussion, I want those who have secessionist tendencies to check their thoughts from a political philosophy perspective. In Algeria, there has been secessionist movements, the Chibalia, trying to separate themselves from Algeria. They have not succeeded. In Angola, we have secessionist movements that they are claiming to create a new country, the Democratic Republic of Londa Chokwe. Up to today, it is not succeeded. In Benin, we have secessionist tendencies from the Yoruba tribes, the Yoruba ethnic groups, and they have been struggling to create separate states of Akoka and the state and Edo state. They have failed. In Botswana, there is still secessionist tendencies of those who are trying to create the Zambezia states. In Cameroon, you know Cameroon was colonized by the British and the French, and there are secessionist tendencies that they are trying to create a new country called Ambazonia. They have not yet succeeded. In Central African Republic, there is a secessionist tendencies of creating the Logone state. Up to today, they are far from success. In the Republic of Congo, there are secessionist tendencies trying to create the Republic of South Congo. Up to today, 40 years, 50 years after the independence, it is not succeeded. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the neighbor to Uganda, there are tendencies to create another state, the Kingdom of Congo, which partially catches the Yira state of Uganda. I'll come to that. In Eritrea, there has been campaigns. You know, Eritrea just separated from Ethiopia in 1993. And even in Eritrea, there are campaigns that those who need another country from within that country of creating the Dankila state. They have not succeeded. In Equatorial Guinea, there are secessionist tendencies of aiming at creating a new country called the Bubi state. They are far from success. In Ethiopia, there are secessionist tendencies where there are 5 different states that people want to create out of the Republic of Ethiopia. We have the Tigray, we have the Ogedoni, we have the Oromia, we have the Sidoma, and we have the Amhara. Ethiopia. I will come to that to explain a different political philosophy concept. In Tanzania, there has been secessionist tendencies of creating Zanzibar as a separate country. In Zambia, there are secessionist tendencies of creating a new country called Barotse. They are far from success. In Zimbabwe, there are secessionist tendencies that have been struggling for 60 years to create a new state, the Matabele land. They are far from success. In Ghana, there are secessionist tendencies aiming at creating a new country called Western Togoland. The stories we all know. In Kenya, there have been secessionist tendencies of trying to create Mombasa separate from Kenya. If you've been to Kenya and Mombasa, you may feel you're in a different country. The stories we know. In Mali, there are secessionist tendencies of creating a new country called Azawad. Far from success. In the islands, Mauritius, there are secessionist tendencies of creating a new country called Rodriguez. It is far from success. In Namibia, there are also secessionist tendencies of creating a new country called Zambezia. The stories we know. In Nigeria, we know there were secessionist tendencies that they were close to creating a new Biafran state. And as we talk this week, Ojukwu General and many others are still making proclamations in relation to the Biafran state. We all know, I was in Calabar, I was in Akwa Ibom, even after 40 years, when the bloody war was over, we know the story, the Biafran war. In Senegal, there are secessionist tendencies where there are people aiming at creating the Kamansan state in Senegal. In Somalia, we all know there is a separate state, Somaliland, but it has not been recognized internationally. They have a government, a flag, everything. Last but not least, in South Africa, we have South Africans who believe that the Cape Province must be a different country, a different state from South Africa. And lastly, in Sudan, there are those who believe that Darfur should be a separate state. So now, how does this relate to the Ugandan context? Because I stated earlier, it is foolish or it is stupid to think of creating secessionist states in the year 2023. Politically, it's not feasible. Only 2 countries in the African continent have succeeded in getting separate countries. Eritrea out of Ethiopia, South Sudan out of Sudan. So what is the package for Uganda? Because the ethnic tension seems to be very intense. As a political philosopher, what do I propose? In Uganda, there is over-centralization of power. In the financial year 2019-2020, 3.6 trillion shillings was given to the local governments as conditional and unconditional grants. 3.6 trillion shillings. And the government collects 44 trillion shillings, which means only 11% of the money collected by Uganda Revenue Authority is remitted to the local government. So it implies the decentralization is fake because 89% of the money remains at the center. Now, in my idea, what would work for Uganda is devolution of power. I'm not talking of federalism. I know in the 1993-1994 Constitutional Review Commission, 65% of Ugandans stated they needed federalism. And out of that, 3,770 memorandums were presented to the Constitutional Review Commission for federalism. And 2,002 memorandums were presented, those who were favoring a unitary state of Uganda as being a unitary state. Now, it is not right to rely on numbers because out of the 3,770 memorandums presented, probably 4,000 came from Uganda. But interestingly, the Constitutional Review Commission, 95% of Baganda wanted federalism. Now, to me, federalism is the most misunderstood word in the Ugandan context. It is tied to monarchism, it is tied to land, it is tied to a Biafra, it is tied to KY. So I, Otto, the political philosopher, would vote for devolution. Now, what is this animal called devolution? In political science, there is a scale that government can slide. We have the unitary government, a republic government like Uganda. We can have decongestion, removing some units from the center and decongesting it. We can have deconcentration, taking some little bit of power. Along the way, we can have decentralization, like the current one of Uganda. Then after decentralization, you can have federalism. Then after federalism, you can go for devolution, which is what I'll spend most of my life campaigning for. And after devolution, you can go for secessionism, which I have already said it is a risky and not a viable business. So what is this devolution? I have been to Nigeria and I've seen how devolution is working. Number one, all the money collected from the center, like in Uganda, 44 trillion shillings, it must be agreed in the constitution by the Parliament of Uganda that 90% of the money should go to the local administrative units. As of now, only 11% of the money goes to the local administrative units, which means we maintain 10% for the office of the president, for going to the United Nations, UN, World Health Organization, and Interpol, International Police. All the other units would go straight to the local administrative units. That is devolution. Now, Uganda can be devolved into 14 units. Acholi, Ankole, Buganda, Bukedi, Karamoja, West Nile, Teso, Kigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Lango, Bugisu, Busoga, and Kasese Bundibujo. Now, this should be the administrative units that 80%, 90% of the money goes to them. These devolved units, in my opinion, as a political scientist, would be responsible for issuance of land titles, would be responsible for issuance of number plates, would be responsible for recruitment of local administration police, would be responsible for education in their areas, running universities and operating lower and secondary education. All the administrative units, all the administrative functions would go to the devolved units. If we make the center less attractive, no one is going to go to the bush to fight. No one will call for secession. Then we would dissolve the national parliament and have the regional, the parliaments at the devolved units as very powerful units. The national parliament remains ceremonial, and we can have senators and those who are over 60 years of age. The Rebecca Kadagas, the Maria Matembes, the senior citizens. This devolution needs to work, and these are some of the ideas that make me as Otto intend to run for presidency. The ideas cannot lose. These ideas cannot lose in an election. People may not appreciate the ideas, but they cannot lose. So the way to go, in my opinion, is devolution, which is healthy. There are cries for secession even in Europe. You know the issues of secession in United Kingdom. You know the issues of secession in France. You know the issues of secession in Eastern Europe, which is still causing war with Russia. I lived in Spain. There are secessionist tendencies between the main Spain and Catalonia. They have even cloned the languages in such a manner that it shows they're different. For example, if you want to go to the washroom, you say, "Donde está el baño?" That is when you are in the main Spain. Now, when you are in Barcelona, where I live, you say, "Donde está el lavados?" The languages are different. Now, the issue to me is, we need to devolve powers. We need to devolve powers. And the moment the powers are devolved and we create local powerful devolved units with the kingdoms, all these units I've read have their kingdoms. The kingdoms goes back to the administrative units, and the center becomes less attractive. This is a war of ideas. This devolution I'm proposing is healthy for the country. And the Obote government, after independence, tried to bring national unity. There was cross-pollination. My father, the late James Otto, rest in peace, studied in St. Leo's, Fort Portal, with Minister Tom Butime. General Aronda studied in Gulu High School and Kitgum High School, the late, rest in peace. There was a deliberate effort. People went and studied in Mbachi, Mvara, Mwiri, Tesokole, so that they hoped, our forefathers hoped, in 50 years, we would appreciate a little bit of our national heritage, and there would be intermarriage, and in the process the country would be fused. But those ideas are no more. Someone can study from nursery up to university in a particular district like Busheni. They have nurseries, they have universities. So there is a likelihood that someone is going to have a degree without crossing. So the idea of fusion through cross-pollination in education, through cross-pollination in the civil service has gone to the West. Let me even ask a question. Why would the cow of Arua be an Acholi? Why would the cow of Kasese be a Moganda? So under the devolved units, You go and study and come and develop your home area. Because if you cannot treat your home area well, who else do you think can treat your home area well? If I may laugh over this. So let the debate begin about devolution. It requires a constitutional amendment. It is not a battle for or against Museveni. This is a battle for a generation that will have to live here for a while. And as I said, national unity in Uganda is not tenable. Uganda is like a fruit salad. There has to be pawpaw, there has to be guavas, there has to be mangoes, there has to be apples, and every fruit must maintain its distinctive capacities. That's what makes a fruit platter. So we need to campaign for unity in diversity. And when we raise these issues, many people think we are tribalistic. No, even if you go to a police station to record your statement, they will ask for your tribe because they know how an Acholi behaves is different from the way a Mugisu behaves. The way a Muganda behaves is different from the way a Sabine would behave. If you go to National or Referral Hospital, they still ask for your tribe. So we must have a system of unity in diversity. These blind eyes that national unity, when a particular group is being favored at the expense of the others, must not be accepted by Ugandans. It will make us hate ourselves. The Anglican Church is a very good example of unity in diversity. Every year the Archbishop is rotational. Mpala Nikoyo left, Orombi left, it went to Kigezi. They rotate ethnically because they are wise. We are different. We should accept we are different, but we should learn to live together. Under a devolved unit, where power goes to the devolved units, the devolved government of Ankole, then the president at a national level becomes weak and ceremonial, and we can even make it rotational. Thank you so much for listening. Post your views. Honorable Dr. Otto greets you on this 4th day of December, and Merry Christmas.